We are live. Hi, Dad.
Hey, Pumpkin.
You are looking very swell today.
Thank you. Thank you. You do as well, of course.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. It's a glorious day while also, a very interesting day too.
Mm-hmm.
All in one with with what's going on right now. And with MLK Day and the inauguration being like in one, but
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. We're here. We're still looking good. I'm still feeling good. I can't speak for you, but it seems like, you're in a fairly nice space. So my
Well, I hope a lot
hope
of
you're
people feel the way I
speaking.
feel in that, the sun came up anyway. Trump got reelected since we were last here. He was inaugurated today, and the sun is still up there as far as I can tell. And when I went in the bathroom this morning, I looked, I was still me. So
Mm,
that means that I'm ahead. Now, if he can, interfere with all that, well, then we got a different conversation to have. But
exactly.
he doesn't have the ability to do all that. And I think that it's it's time for us to take stock. Obviously, we were last here. I predicted that we would be celebrating this inauguration instead of it being like a funeral for the country itself, but it is that funeral. Um, but funerals are a part of life too, are they not?
Yeah, this is factual. Very
Mm-hmm.
true. It's something that we just have to accept and move on along,
Mm-hmm.
however can or deem fit for our own individual things that we're striving for. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just not to dwell on that because I feel like we talk so much about all of that. I want to talk more about us,
Right.
what we're doing
Mm-hmm.
here. And I love having this platform with you. I know that we were talking and we were trying to figure out exactly what is exactly, well, you specifically were wanting to know what it is about being able to maintain a podcast. Like, why does it seem so challenging?
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd love to open the floor with why that is the case for me specifically. Unless you had something that you wanted to chime in and say first,
No,
then
I mean, I think it's clear if the people who are kind enough to visit with us and watch what we post. It's no surprise. Today is the January the 20th. It's inauguration day. We were last here. We were in the throes of the election. It was in November, or was it even October? It's been a while. But the reason why it's difficult to maintain a platform like this is because um, your commitments are going to be challenged by the demands of life. And in our case, we had it was very close to home for me. Were faced with a crisis that dwarfed the importance of this election, which I never ever would have thought would come my way in a million years. But literally, the day before the election was the day that I got my son out of the hospital. My youngest son, your little brother, had been in the hospital for a week. He had been sick, very grievously ill for a little while leading up to that week. And some shit like that will cause you to adjust your perspective in a major way. I think that because I had just gone through that and the horror of that experience, like you don't know what powerlessness is until you have a child who is sick in that particular way. I won't go into the details out of respect for his privacy because there are some people who know who I am, that and he belongs to me, and
Mhm.
he will make those things known in his own time, in his own way. But we very nearly lost him, and in a way that's different than a lot of ways that children get lost or adult children get lost. So the truth of the matter is that as desperately as I wanted Kamala Harris to win over Donald Trump, for all of the reasons I've laid out before, both in writing, in the space where I write on medium.com and here in our discussions, that day if you told me that I could have my son back in his full health and Adolf Hitler could have been the president and Donald Duke would have been his vice president, I'd be like, fuck it, I'll take it. I'll take it. You can
Yeah.
have this shit. You can have all of this. I don't give a fuck
Mm-hmm.
about that. I want my family back together intact. I was
Mm-hmm.
blessed with that. And as he has continued his recovery, he's just about there now and complete. It There's no good time for something like that to happen. But
Yeah.
I do see the benefit of those events coinciding because, in a very real way, my country, the land of my birth, passed away on November the 4th. America died that day. Fuck what you heard. America died that day. And it was worse because America committed suicide on that day, died by its own hand. And when I say that, no, we're not about to look up and see tanks and shit rolling down the street from some other country or anybody else
Right.
planting their flag over here. Nobody, that's not happening. But in a very real way, the country that we thought that we lived in is gone because America as a whole is no longer aspiring to be its highest self. It's not making an effort to be true to what it put on paper anymore. That is a reality. And whether motherfuckers like me like it or not, whether we anticipated it or not, whatever we thought, we were wrong. Okay. He did not win by a landslide. It was no convincing it. Fuck that. But he won. He won the popular vote and he won the electoral college, which means that is what the country wanted. And I don't want to hear all this bullshit about the Trump regret and all that. Fuck that. That's stuff that we're putting online to make ourselves feel better. The whole fuck around and find out. Well, the ones that fucked around and found out was us too. Because however fucked up those people are who voted for him, we are in that boat with them. It's almost like we all in a swimming pool together and they took a whiz inside the swimming pool. We think they the only ones that's gonna get sick because they pissed in the pool. Now
So,
we all in there. So it's like,
mhm.
but having that experience made me realize that the things that I have most direct control over demand my full attention. I will always be politically aware. I will always be politically astute. I will always be a political participant. But it is really time for me to emotionally divest myself from politics, remaining engaged as a citizen,
Mm.
but emotionally divest in a way that I had not before. I'm a passionate guy. That's the reason why, when I love somebody, it's hard for them to let go. Because when I love you, I fucking love you. You feel that. But when I turn on your ass, well, no. You have been turned on. So it just is what it is. So for
Mm.
me, my political temperature is changing, okay, in a major, major way. And it's probably going to result in some different perspectives that are going to come
Mm.
out as the years, kind of play out here. Because
Yeah.
everything we did before has gotten us where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like very much to leave this earth with things somewhat better than they were when I got here. Martin Luther King, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Even Marcus Garvey, I'm not. None of these other men, but I'm here too, and my life has to matter at least to me.
Right.
So I know that what we've gotten has gotten us here. What we've done has gotten us here. Um, so changes have to be made. You got to re-examine what brought you to this place. So, that's kind of where I'm at. But I'm an old motherfucker. I'm 53 years old. Whatever my time is a lot closer to being up than yours. Things go normally. What is your perspective on what happened and what it means?
Far as the election or just in
Yes.
general.
Well, in general,
Um,
sure.
well, yeah, well, with the election specifically, I mean, my perspective, I was sorely disappointed. I was sad, of course, but like you were mentioning yourself, we were really going through a very challenging time, in our own close orbit,
Mm-hmm.
more so specifically with you at
Mm-hmm.
home, but me still being close knit that way,
Sure.
it still had an effect on me and it just
Mm-hmm.
really changed my whole outlook on like what really matters and what doesn't, and trying to even gauge like, well, what's the lesser evil, or is there a lesser evil, or etc. Like, what difference does it really make? It's all a matter of something that just is not something that I just know I wouldn't be at peace with if it were to go in a different direction in regards
Mm-hmm.
to my brother, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, I was just very thankful. I've realized that, the world works in very mysterious ways, or the universe works in very mysterious ways. It shows us things that we wouldn't even think would be shown in certain moments.
Mm-hmm.
And even though like I despise the fact that this thing is in office yet again,
Mm-hmm.
I am still thankful that I too woke up and still waking up as who I am, or who I have been growing to be
Mm-hmm.
over the past few years. And I'm thankful that we're still blessed to, have the family that we have and the other relationships that we have, and,
Mm-hmm.
just that we just have each other. And some things do matter more than others. It's not to say that those other things don't matter. I think
Mm-hmm.
they all play a part in our day-to-day living, like how we're
Mm-hmm.
going to genuinely be okay. But I just, in short, I had to just really recognize that although I might want something to turn out a specific way, it's not always going to pan out that way. And I have to be able to find those little but big things that make a real difference in my life. You
Sure.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds so controversial, or what is it, where it's like one of the two, not hypocritical, whatever, contradictory,
Mm-hmm.
saying that these things matter while other things don't. Eh, they do. But it's just me just figuring out what is most important to me.
Prioritizing.
Prioritizing, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to just swallow it, really.
Mm-hmm.
You do what you can. I felt like we, I was very proud at the end of it too, because I felt like we at least did some part in the this electoral experience where,
Mm-hmm.
we spoke on certain issues, genuinely spoke on issues, and, tried to get the, word out or whatever, etc. We did our part, I feel like, and actually showing up to the polls as well. But
I,
that's it's only so much you can do. You
it is
can't.
that's real, and the lesson, the takeaway from this is, and this is something that it doesn't matter. My feelings matter tremendously in some contexts, and others they don't mean a damn thing. And in this particular context, here's a reality. My hometown is Detroit, Michigan. And let me be clear about something. Kamala Harris would have lost Michigan based upon the way that the polls went. She would not have won Michigan if our turnout, our being black voter turnout, had been what it had normally been. She still would have lost. But the fact that as I understand it, the black male voter turnout was south of 40%. That is a reality that I can't get past that. Okay, because what that means is that for all of the shit that we talk, for all that big tough talk and all that other stuff, when the deal came down, when the fight was actually on to kind of plant your flag, set your mark, and enforce it, we didn't show up. And even though it would not have turned the election, supposing she had won Michigan, she still would have lost the election. That shit spoke volumes to me. It let me know that look, where we are right now is in a place that um a lot of us have just given up on the fight. And I can't fight enough for me and for your ass. If you don't want it, there's not shit I can do about it. Okay. And I don't want to be a dick about this whole thing, but quite frankly, The motherfuckers that showed up to vote, we already in good shape. We're gonna be
Mhm.
fine regardless of what happens. It's y'all that are doing all that crying and complaining about what you ain't got and what you need and who gave me a stimmy check and all that. Y'all the motherfuckers that are gonna be hurt by not voting. And it's like I realize like y'all just I regard my brothers without ill will because I really believe that it's just the weight of history and the weight of society. It just might be too much for some people to lift. But you know what? When they make that decision, you just got to let their asses go. Don't do anything to harm them. Absolutely never that. Don't be disrespectful. But as far as like pouring investment into that's over with. I ain't got time. I ain't got energy or whatever. I have my own children to look after. I got my own stuff to look after. If y'all motherfuckers won't even show up for the fight, it's okay to show up and get your ass beat to lose. That's gonna happen. That's why I was so taken apart aback by that because if you are a guy of a certain age and that's your hometown, you probably have been in a lot more fisticuffs than the average person. Most guys who were teenagers in Detroit in the 1980s, you had some fist fights. Everybody's got a record. You know, you may be 15 and 10, or you may be 8 and 11 or whatever, but you had some fights. It's kind of unavoidable. It's okay. It's not the end of the world.
Not, but
But
it's just
I
thinking
was
like,
floored
dang,
that fools did not show up. I just couldn't believe it. And I kept thinking, oh, they lying. Oh, the posters are trying to blame it on us and this and
what?
that. And nah, it checked out. You know, Pew has no reason to lie. Okay, the Cornell, post elections, they got no reason to lie. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Their reputation is on the line. So I didn't want to believe it, but the shit was true. It cross checked. We didn't show up for the fight in key areas. I can accept losing if you fight. I can't accept not fighting.
Yeah.
This motherfucker got up there and insulted the city of Detroit in Detroit not 3 weeks before the vote, not 3 weeks before that. I just knew it's like, okay, well, dudes are going to just bum rush the polls up there. And it didn't
That's
happen.
what he said. How did he disrespect
He
Detroit?
he got up there and made a comment that, well, if something along the lines of if I don't get back in the office, the whole country is gonna wind up being the Detroit. Like Detroit is some shithole, right? And he said it at his giving a speech at the Detroit Economic Club, which of course is a bunch of peckerwoods like him, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought that even they would have been like giving some pushback because of just out of
Yeah.
pride in your own town. But
Mm-hmm.
no, I guess with this guy, male pride has just gone for everybody but him. Dudes have no dignity anymore. They just like he could take a shit in their hat and they'll put it on and say, "Thank you, sir. It fits much better now." It's literally to that point. So that's whether
Mm-hmm.
black dudes, white dudes, or whomever. It's a weird dynamic. Guys who built their brand on being tough guys and hood guys, like all this stuff with these rappers or whatever running behind Trump. Now it's like, well, dudes have just surrendered their manhood entirely,
Yes.
entirely. And so, but if that's happening around you, sooner or later, it's incumbent on you to pull back and be like, y'all
Yeah.
motherfuckers can have it.
And
You
that's
can
really
have it.
all that can be done, Dad. I feel like you just have to just take a step back, like,
Hmm.
and just live your life how you just
Yeah,
see fit the most, because that's all we really have at the
yeah,
end of it is our own life to live. And as selfish as it may be deemed or come off, that's just the reality that we're in right now. And it's an unfortunate reality that's been brought to real fruition. I think that was one of the last things that you said on our last episode was, we're about to, what'd you say? We're about to find out, the
yeah.
fight
What we
and
really are.
we're about to find out, if everything that everybody is saying, if you really want it, if this is really how you feel, etc.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, it's not to say that it's not out there. It's just not enough of us out there to actually
No.
go out and do what needs to be done to make those things happen. But eventually, after swinging so much in a fight that nobody is really, well, not enough people are really assisting on
Hmm.
the swinging, you get winded, you get
Yeah.
tired. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I need some fight left for me to just enjoy the rest, the days that I'm going to have here. You know what I mean?
You win some, you lose some, but you live. You live to fight another day.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, that is what I took away from it. Um, at bottom, just got to move forward however possible, and not just however possible, best way possible, healthiest way possible. I've in the midst of, all of the foolery with the election happening, I felt like 2024 was also one of the best years, that I have had in a long time.
Hmm.
I feel like I've seen a lot of my loved ones excel in various ways in 2024,
Hmm.
and it's refreshing to know that even with foolishness that's surrounding you, that
Hmm.
there's still a lot of beauty that can transpire as well, as
Hmm.
long as the focus is there. And
Hmm.
that is really just what I've been honing on. It's just like, what is my focus genuinely?
Hmm.
And I think that will bring me back to the original, um, I guess, I don't know, floor question. Just
Hmm.
what exactly is it about maintaining a podcast that's so challenging? And as far as with the focus for me, it's like I've had a lot of time since we have taken our time to breathe,
Hmm.
to just reflect. And I know for certain when you asked that immediately, I was like, I don't enjoy talking. So I don't look forward to recording. That is an
Okay.
honest answer with myself.
Okay.
I look forward to after we're done recording, editing it and sending it
Hmm.
to you, seeing how you like it, and just bring it together. And as well as it being something that is ours that we share. I love the relationship that we have together.
Hmm.
I just want to have something that is ours that, you know, puts a smile on your face as well as puts a smile on mine, and
Okay.
that is really what my main focus is when it comes down to
Okay.
having this podcast. I don't look forward to getting on camera and talking because I don't like talking about much. I feel like I really don't have much to say about a lot of anything unless it's just on my mind. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not shy to say what I'm thinking, but if it's in the midst of if we're like in a room full of people, I'm not going to be the first one to start a conversation. you
True.
know, or I
True.
might chime in here and there or be in the corner, like just because that's, it is I, what it's a comfort zone for me,
I
and that might
appreciate
be,
that sharing
yeah,
that perspective. I do, and it
yeah.
tracks. I get that. Hmm.
Yeah, because I'm perfectly okay with just sitting and basking in or taking in everything that you have to share. I'm saying you specifically because of the
Right.
dynamic right now, but just in general, like I'm okay with just being the listener a lot of the times,
Okay.
unless I
Okay.
actually have something to talk about. But it's not to say that I don't enjoy doing this. It's just
Hmm.
to say that I am here in this position, engaging in the dialect until it does kick off in the way that we or that has been discussed amongst ourselves, like with the expansion of having guests on the show and
Hmm.
playing more of a part in the production field. 'Cause, that's I'm more of a creative, so it's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
I naturally just have a knack for just sitting in my corner and just whatever is going on in my brain, bringing it to
Okay.
life somehow. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
I receive that, and I
Yeah.
understand that entirely, and that probably it's about it being a comfortable space for you to be in, because even though we need to be challenged and expand ourselves at the
Hmm.
same time, um it has to, you got to know what the payoff is. Like, okay, what am I doing this for? What is this in aid of? And if you're
Hmm.
just doing something because somebody else wants you to do it or it seems like you should, then that's not something that you want to really invest in, because there's a limited amount of time and energy that you have to give in life.
Yeah.
Limited amount of time. You
Hmm.
don't want to spend it poorly. You want to spend
mm,
it wisely, meaning, or
mm,
really, you want to invest it rather than spend it. And I
mm.
completely understand what you're saying. And it's hard to get up for something that isn't natural for you or something that you don't really feel like driven to do. It becomes a
So it's
labor.
the perfect word.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we first had this idea, I was definitely excited and I'm still excited, but as far as like stepping out of my comfort zone with the whole,
Mhm.
talking about topics that won't usually talk about, on a day to day. I'll talk about them with my dad,
Mhm.
or I'll take heed to what he has to say about them. You know what I mean? But I was looking forward to challenging myself to do that. And, it's not that I don't think I'm capable, but I have recognized and grown to realize, this isn't really something that I just am itching to do. But I do know what I'm itching to do, to contribute to this. And I just want to keep
I
going.
get it. And this actually does answer the question. The
Mm,
reason why it's difficult to maintain a podcast is because the conception of it has to be right up front, meaning that it has the proper emotional fuel to carry it through the difficult times. Like when, I didn't stop writing when my son got sick. I didn't write as much, but I continued to write. And I published a few pieces while he was down. Because for one thing, I'm like, okay, I got to do something. I can't just sit here and working, obviously, is that's whatever, you got to pay the bills. So you just continue to work. But this was demanding more of it. And I think that what this really ought to serve as is kind of a transition out of this space, and we should save this for posterity,
mm,
and explaining, the birth and passing of a podcast. This one will come to an end and another will be born from the ashes of this. But the reason why you do it is because you won't know if something works until you get in there and start doing it. You would always wonder, if you hadn't done it, well, maybe I could have done that. How would that have worked? Well, now you don't have to ask. Well, that's not really what I want to do. That's not my comfort zone.
right,
So that's a good thing because you now know yourself better than you knew before you started this. And I think this is what, our fifth or sixth episode,
it's about seventh. I'll give us seven.
somewhere's in there. and
Because
and
one of them
most
didn't get it.
the majority of podcasts do not make it to, I think the number is weird. It's like there's a huge percentage that stop after the third episode and a bunch that don't make
Mhm.
it to 10. So there's like something in that spot where
Okay.
they have proof of life and they continue on, or they just kind of settled in. This
Mm,
really makes like my fourth total
mm,
podcast that I've been a part of as of now. And the
mm,
one that lasted the longest was the one that I did with my wife now and a old friend of mine. And my
mhm.
cousin was actually a part of that one as well. That was a lot of fun, but the advantage was that one started in the pandemic, you see.
Right, where everybody
So
was
that
at
was under
is
different circumstances. Everybody did not have as much to do. We were all
yeah,
kind of shut in, and we were trying to, you know, deal with the isolation or whatever. And frankly,
right.
that was the best experience that we had. But what happened? Once life turned back on and everybody got
Mhm.
back into the flow of things, the energy kind of died down. The only one that really had energy left to keep going was me by myself. And,
Yeah.
I guess you could do
Mhm.
that, but that wasn't what I had envisioned. I envisioned conversation and dialogue as
Mhm.
opposed to lecturing and monologue, because I just don't
Mhm.
know that that's that interesting to people. I don't know if I'm that compelling of a character. Now there's people that do it, but I
You
find
are.
their stuff to not be good, in my opinion,
Mhm.
generally.
I
Now there's
understand.
some,
Yeah.
but mostly it looks like, okay, that's a total vanity project. You're not giving anything to anybody. You're just on here, jerking off in public over here. And that's not, I'm not about that.
But
It has to be.
there are ways for that to be executed,
Mhm.
like you say, for it to grab people or for it to stick and not be, those what's the Charlie Brown teacher doing lectures and stuff.
Wah, 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 wah,
Yeah,
wah.
to keep it from being that there's ways. And I feel like that's where I, can come in
Mm-hmm.
and just help with that. And that's
Okay.
something that working on anyway. But um
Okay.
yeah, so I just I want to help feed your drive while you're
Mm-hmm.
helping feed mine. You know what I mean? I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's a perfect even, kill, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And yeah, I was not anticipating like the death and passing, or I'm sorry, not the death and pass, the birth and passing of a podcast in
Mm-hmm.
this, but I think it's more exciting than anything,
Sure.
because I think we'll both be getting a lot more from
Mm-hmm.
what we were getting generally, and this helped us get to that point. I think have
Mm-hmm.
starting it up to begin with. That's really what it's about, just starting something, that your mind calculates and seeing what can be made of it. And I really like where it seems to be going as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that it's perfectly healthy because it stems, um, it speaks volumes in a matter of us being true to ourselves, I guess, still as
Mm-hmm.
individual grown people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like we just had a heart to heart and didn't realize we were
Well, no,
having one.
that's kind of the point of doing this, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm really glad that that we did it, and we can bring this portion to its proper conclusion and plot out, because like the thing I told you before that I wanted to do as a part of it or whatever, well, that can kind of become the thing now in this particular realm, and that does free you up, like we were discussing before we started technically recording this, to really pour your energies and focus into things that more feed your creative
Mm,
appetites, if you will.
mhm.
If for whatever reason you're not as comfortable as a on camera, on microphone, direct voice,
Yeah.
there's plenty of room to create off of those spaces, as you know very well. I hope that the
Mhm.
story thing that you were starting before takes hold, because
Yes,
that's
it is.
I thought that was a very creative. I enjoyed the one pilot episode of that very much, but
Yeah.
it's a process, so you have to develop that
Mhm.
and figure out where to go next. I think you got a wealth of opportunity
Mhm.
and resources to build off with that. So
Mhm.
let's get going to the future.
Let's get going to the future. I love that. I think that's a perfect closing.
It is.
What you
It
think?
is.
I mean, I do. I think this is, like you said, a nice segue into the next thing that we'll be doing, as
Mm-hmm.
far as like a goodbye episode, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
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 All right, Pumpkin.
Um,
See you
okay,
soon.
bye. I love you. See you.
Love you
Well,
too,
let me
honey.
stop